Hey there, gang. So yeah, I've been sort of sparser than usual because, as you know, I don't have internet yet. And it's unclear when Virgin Media is going to get their act together. I don't know. I mean, this is really befuddling that a company can get away with this, man. I don't know. Anyway, so what I want to talk about today is I just saw a video about a guy who's on the interwebs a lot talking about production and stuff. And I don't have any issue with him. I think his name is Joe Gilder. I think that's his name. I don't watch many help video things on the web. And I'm going to tell you why. Not because of Joe. And not because of the other guy he was talking about, which was, I'm going to get his name wrong, Mike in the Mix. He's got like 1 million followers, which is pretty awesome. But both of the things that they were saying make sense for the most part. One thing in particular stuck out to me, and that is 90% of the advice you get on the web is trash, utter garbage. Yeah, it's true. Any forums you read, garbage. Like I read stuff and I cringe. Bob Olson and I talk about it. Henry Kaiser and I talk about it. All my friends in the music business talk about this. We're constantly amazed how people are making money. And this is a common theme for us here, right? How people are making money off of you. Because people are watching their advice, they're buying gear. Like, no, it's trash, utter garbage. Don't believe it. 90% of the stuff you read on the internet or watch is utter garbage. If that person hasn't been doing this for a long time with a lot of transparency, but more importantly, accountability, right? Like I've been working in the music business for so long. I wouldn't be still here doing this if I wasn't doing a good job, if I didn't know what I was talking about. And the reason my channel, like it's incredible that we got to 2,000. Thank you all again for that. Like it blows my mind. But 4 years ago, it was at 125 followers. And the reason I've been able to put more time into it now was because of COVID. Let's be honest. Like it shut us all down in the music business. We still tried to do stuff, but we weren't getting in the same room like we used to and doing productions the way we prefer to. So I put the time into this. But there are people who have just been doing this because I don't see them in the studios. I've worked in New York, LA, Nashville for 22 years. I was in New York for 15. And I've been in London back and forth for 8 years. I lived here for a year from 16 to 2017. And now I'm back again. I don't see these people. I don't hear anybody talking about these people. Just be careful. There's a lot of people giving advice because they're like internet famous or YouTube famous, whatever it is, that don't know what the hell they're talking about. People telling you that all monitors suck and all headphones suck and only these are good and you got to build your own to be No. Look, it depends on your room. It depends on what type of music. There's so many variables. Bob Olson had a very famous thing he used to say to me all the time. And I after a while, I just expected him to say it. I'm like, Bob, how do we, blah, 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 blah. And he would always answer me, well, it depends. That's what an accountable, verifiable legend who's had a ton of experience tells you. Well, it depends, because what are all the variables? So, Joe Gilder and this other guy were making a lot of sense. And that was one of the things they talked about is, that you really don't want to listen to a lot of advice unless that person has some credibility. And I don't hear a lot of credibility. You know, there's people with hundreds of thousands of followers. There's a couple of people who I won't mention, one in particular, who's like all of a sudden become the go-to guy because he made himself famous. Like, I've never heard a single record this guy has made, and yet everybody's referring to him when my friends and I get together and say, oh, so-and-so says, and we just like, oh my God, again, here we go. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm saying that, and some of the things he said in the first couple of years he was on YouTube were sensible, but then he decided to make himself famous and interviewing famous people. And why these famous people? I mean, my friends and I are like, why are they sitting down with this guy? Like, is promotion that scarce? Is it that like bad that you have to talk to this guy? Like, I don't understand. There's much better people to talk to. There's much more credible people to talk to. So just be careful who you're getting advice from. When I come on here to talk to you, I try to give you practical advice from my 32 plus years in the business. And I try to save you money. That's one of the big keys. You don't need, I love gear. You know I love gear, but I never tell you to buy things. I will show you things I use, things that I firmly, wholeheartedly believe in, that I spent my own money on. And I'll also tell you when I'm not using certain things anymore and why, whatever you want to know about it, because I don't want you to spend your hard-earned money on this stuff, because that's the other side of this that Joe Gilder and this other guy were talking about. You don't need a lot of gear. I know pros that use 80% stock plugins. Now, that 20% they use are pretty awesome that aren't stock, but I've seen sessions that are like 80% stock. There's nothing wrong with it. And you don't need tons of rack gear and whatever and the latest reissue of this and that and the other thing. That's not going to make you better. Okay, here's another thing, very important. You know what is going to make you better? Practice. Working at your craft, getting better at making the whole picture come together. So, and here's an example. Do you know who Jack Pearson is? Some of you, I bet, know who Jack Pearson is. Unbelievable guitar player. I did a slide guitar podcast several years ago. He was one of the first people I interviewed. He was in the Allman Brothers when Dickie Betts left the Allman Brothers and playing with, I guess, Warren Haynes. For many, many, many years, he was in the Allman Brothers, but he's been known in Nashville as one of the best guitar players in Nashville. Think about that. He's one of the best guitar players in Nashville and has been for over 30 years. You know what he plays? A stock Squire he bought for like a couple $100, a used Squire Strat that he grabbed off the rack at a Guitar Center. Yep, that's his only guitar. It's been his only guitar forever. I think he might have bought another Squire like it, but he just likes this particular Squire. He was like, yeah, okay, that feels good, okay. And that's what he's been using professionally for years and years and years. And you know why? Because it doesn't matter. Dude could play a bamboo stick with strings set across it. I'm not kidding. Like, if you're good and you did the work, do the work, you can be great. That's what it takes. Another thing that it takes is it's not taking mixing courses, although that might help, might be helpful. It's not buying gear. It's not buying plugins. It's okay. Right. If you want to make a song great, do the work, become a better songwriter. It just takes time. It just takes effort and a little bit, refining your skills. But if you want to make that song great, once you've written a great song, the arrangement, all those great Motown songs. And when I used to talk to Bob about it, Bob would be like, well, Paul Reiser, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but he's like, Paul Reiser, and they were like, they made it all happen. Yeah, the Funk Brothers would go in and track an amazing track and they'd work on it. It wouldn't just be the first or second take. It might be the eighth take, but they would know because they were pros. And when they got the feel and the groove and the tempo right, and it was in the right key for the singer it was intended, then Paul Reiser and, God, I'm sorry, I can't remember the other guy, would come in and make magic. Because the rhythm track has to be solid, the groove has to be solid, everything has to be tight, but it's all the other stuff and where it goes and how it fits together like a puzzle that makes the song great and your mix easier. Like, trust me. Like, I'm working on a mix right now. I can't turn on the computer because I don't have Wi-Fi or internet to authorize the software. It's very frustrating. But I wanted to show you the song I'm working on because that's precisely what I've been doing. I wrote the song. The song's done. I'm fine-tuning some lyrics. But I'm figuring out the arrangement before I ever get to the mix. And when I do show you this, maybe in a week or so, you'll see that there are sections of parts, and then that part goes out, and then there's another little section of that part, and then that part comes back in, and then there's a drum part. There's like 4 different drum parts I've programmed. It's kind of cool. I was getting into this programming thing. And there's one drum part that comes in here, here, and here, but the rest it's out. And then the other drum parts are in all the time, but then there's all these shakers and percussion things that are in and out throughout the entire mix. And, you know, my wife heard it and she was like, "What is that? That's amazing." All the faders were at 0 because the arrangement was getting good, right? The arrangement was getting good and stuff wasn't just blasting all the time, because that's when it's really hard to make a mix good. So just be careful. Just be careful. This is hard work. I worked really hard to get where I am. I don't resent anybody that makes money on the internet telling you stuff, but conversely, I can tell you, just, you know, I care about you, right? You're here on my channel and we're sharing, and I don't want you to waste your time. I don't want you to waste your money. I don't want you to waste your effort following too many things, because if you sit there and watch all this stuff, your head's going to be so clouded, and you're not spending the time doing the things that matter, like learning how to write a better song, learning how to play your instrument better, and coming up with an arrangement that's so amazing that when you put the faders up, you're like, whoa, we're halfway there. Because that's the key. That's how you do incredible pro productions. It's not all this stuff, and it's not gear, and it's not filling your head with nonsense. Okay, so that's what I'm here to tell you. That's what I'm here to share. I hope you get something out of this. And if you have any questions, just ask. I mean, I'm happy to do it. You know, now that COVID is over now, pandemic's over, sort of, I guess. I don't care. I'm back out working. All my friends are working. We're getting back into studios, but I'm committed to you all, and I'm committed to this channel of what we've built. Can't believe we got to 2,000, but let's go to 3. I don't care. But let's make it so that the things you care about and the questions you have are getting answered. And I'm there for you. And we're going to talk about some gear, again, to try to save you money. Like, I bought the Plethora X1 this week. And one thing I'll go over it in depth. I spent because I have no internet, but I did set up a hotspot downstairs on my laptop. It wouldn't work on my desktop. Don't know why. I talked to TC. I bought this with my own money, but I talked to TC support. They were great. They got back within 24 hours and said, okay, perform a firmware update immediately. And I was like, oh, well, it just came out, but okay, great. Like, I got it first day. did the firmware update, then that computer, my laptop, recognized it. It still won't be recognized by my desktop. I am still befuddled by that because I have the Tone Print app on this computer and have used it with my Plethora X5. Maybe the difference is this has this USB 2.0 jack, and the Plethora X5, X3, and all the old Tone Print pedals had that other. Let me see if I've got it here somewhere. This I don't know. You probably can't see this, but it's that weird mini USB thing, but it's not the USB Mini 2.0 that phones use, like Androids use. So that's what this uses. Maybe it has something to do with that. But I spent about, oh my God, like 3 hours, because there's A and B on each setting. So each channel, each Tone Print has an A and B. So I didn't do all the Bs. I only did one, but I did. So that means I did 8 Tone Prints, and it took about 3 hours to get, well, this included the firmware update and everything, and then rebooting it and blah, 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 and downloading the latest Tone Print. So we can talk about that. Also, I want to talk about, Dan Steinhardt from That Pedal Show and my friends at Hampstead Audio, Hampstead Soundworks. They make those. I had a Hampstead amp. I had an RT20, best amp I ever played, ever. Amazing amp. Well, they make great pedals too. And they came up with this. It's true stereo, analog. It's pretty pricey. So I will tell you that we'll talk about this sometime this week, and I'll try to do some sound demos of it. It's pretty gorgeous. Like it's amazing, but it's like $500. So I don't know that it's for everybody. I'm just being honest. I love my friends at Hampstead. They've done a good thing, and I appreciate what they were going for. So many options on this thing. And it does do things that other modulators don't, especially since considering it's all analog. But, it's pretty expensive. I would suggest, we'll get into this more later, but I would suggest that if you play in stereo or you have a wet, dry, wet rig, something like that, that would be pretty cool. That would it would definitely be worth it. If you're playing in mono, I don't know. It's a lot of money for modulation. And it also depends what modulation you use. Like, yes, this does the Electric Mistress, and it does like warped vinyl, and it does ring mod, and it does, roto and, chorus, everything. Dimension does a really good Dimension D, but, there's no presets, because it's analog. So you have to consider that. So, but, I'm very impressed. I'm very, very impressed by it. I will be keeping it. I will be enjoying it. But I'm also setting up a wet, dry, wet rig for my pedal steel and my lap steel and all my other lap guitars for the studio. I don't think I'll be taking it out when I go play out. Like many of you all, when I'm playing with a group, with even the London Experimental Ensemble, I can't bring 2 or 3 amps, but not even 2. So I'm playing in mono. So I think that's a consideration. So again, I try to save you some money. I try to give you some good advice. It's all from experience. I've also been very lucky to work with some incredible people. I've got some other cool stuff I want to show you and share with you, but maybe when I get my Wi-Fi back up in a couple of days, we can deal with that. So again, any questions, any advice I can offer, let me know. I'm here for you, and thank you for being here.